Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable, ongoing reality. Check, check. Okay. Let's see here. Check, check. 1, 2. Can you all hear us? We're having a little bit of audio difficulty, but hopefully you all could hear us. Not quite sure. Let's see here. Do a quick check. Good check. Okay, it's working. It's working. All right. You know how things are here in the modern world. Go ahead and shut it off there. All right, guys. Welcome to Real Talk with the Cummings. My name is Mark Angelo Cummings.
And I'm Ariel Cummings. Thanks, guys, for joining us tonight. We have a great show that we have planned out for you.
And at any time, our audio, it seems like it's okay now. Check, yeah, it's working fine now. But so gosh, there's a lot of hot topics that we wanted to touch base on. There's just a lot of things going on. And
a lot of things happening in the span of just a week even. We've got kids being held back by the Florida, state health and security and the legislators and stuff. They're not letting parents see their kids. That's crazy.
A lot of crazy stuff that we never thought could actually, come to pass. But, history does repeat itself. And if that's one thing that we could totally see on the horizon, is there's just a lot of things that are unfolding that have similarities to a time where that one very famous leader, Nazi leader, had his way, very fascist, kind of similar to somebody in Florida there, the great leader of
banning books and burning books almost.
Yeah, there's just a lot of similarities actually. Let's do a little quick share here of what they used to do back in the day. It seems like, well, we're getting to that same point, and he's having a little bit of issues with Disney as well. Little power struggle.
I hear another state's kind of interested in, having Disney maybe move up.
Yeah, there's a lot of money that Disney brings, but he wants to build a prison. That's how much he cares about your children. He wants to keep your children so safe that he wants to build a prison right next to Disney.
Yeah.
Isn't that an oxymoron?
What an iron. irony.
Total irony there, but yeah, what can you do? You know, when you have absolute power, it gives rise to absolute corruption. You know, and some of these men, you know, once they have all the money they could handle, the next thing they want is power, and we're seeing a lot of power struggles.
It's crazy because he was voted in with like a razor's edge of percentage points the first time, and then after he went all out on this "Don't Say Gay" bill last year,
Yeah,
and he started to pick up all this momentum with the talking points that he was going with, and you know what he did with the COVID thing and all that, you know, and it was just like he just really became like the Republican Party's new little, you know, special person.
yeah, it's and people in Florida are kind of a little upset at him because the ones that are conservative and all, you know, all into what he's doing really don't want him to not be the governor of Florida anymore, but he's bailing out because he really doesn't care. He just
He's got higher hopes. I mean, he wants to bring the state of Florida to the rest of the United States, actually. You know.
yeah, it definitely does. I'm gonna go ahead and share some of the show right now on Facebook and some of the others and let people know that we are live. But yeah, I mean, talking about history repeating itself, you know, one of the things that I've noticed as of late is that things that happened in the past are having a lot of similarities right now in the present.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities compared to, you know, they talk about the steps to GENO, whatever, you know, that word that we can't say on YouTube. Um, but basically, like, there's like these steps to get to the point. And what people don't realize is that there have been steps that have already been completed in that step down into chaos, which is, you know, taking the rights away from people, you know, targeting them, making them seem like they're like perverts or something, you know. So
Yeah,
we've got these real stark similarities with what happened back in the 1940s and 1930s.
and they
Europe.
use the same tactics, you know, against gays. Anita Bryan did that as well, and um, calling them Groomer, you know. So the people who are repeating Nazi talking points about trans people might just not know that history of Nazis oppressing queerness as part of the HOLOCAUST.
Right.
You know, and it's like I don't know what they're thinking. They're so blinded by their hate and want to get things their way that they don't see exactly what is being done to a group of people that just want to live.
Yeah, so you have like these people that are being persecuted, and a lot of times people only want to look at the one group of people from, you know, that were Jewish that
Right.
got affected. But the reality is that there were a lot of different groups of people that had been, you know, uh, treated the same way. So history shows that the people that were queer actually they were rounded up and they put a pink triangle on their shirts to signify that they were, you know, in the queer community.
Right, part of either gay, lesbian, you know, or
Right.
queer. And then the Jews got handed out a yellow star of David. Roma and nonconformists had a black triangle. And then the queer folk of any stripe were given a pink triangle, as you mentioned earlier.
So thousands of queer folk were killed in the Nazis' reign of terror, largely in concentration camps, although many were also killed in the streets. So you don't even have a good number.
Right, but that's the end point. Nobody starts there. Because it didn't begin with executing people and pushing queer folks into camps. It started with Nazi rhetoric saying all queerness is evil. with claims that queer people were perverts. They were grooming children, GROOMING children, and destroying families. Doesn't that sound kind of like very familiar of like what the Christians are doing right now?
Yeah, basically, it's the same exact thing that they were doing. And let's not forget that the group of people that were behind what this terrible, terrible man, terrible dictator of Germany did, that we all understand was bad, that the Christian community actually supported this man. This man actually claimed to believe in God, you know.
Yeah, there's pictures with him actually shaking hands with the Pope and other Catholic priests. But here we see a picture of, the triangle, you know. Pretty sad that, I mean, it's almost like unthinkable that we're heading, or they want to head that way. I think we're going to be able to stop them because we've got the universe on our side. Because these people that are Catholic Christians, I think that they're doing God's work, but they don't realize that the God that they worship is an evil God, and evil never wins. Love always wins. So yeah, to be clear,
when you call trans folks GROMers or whatever, and literally just for existing as trans folk, when you pretend like queerness is inherently evil or it destroys the family or culture,
when you push the idea that we're perverts that need to be dealt with, you're copying a Nazi. You're actually pretty much asking for our genocide. You're asking for us to be eliminated. We literally fought an entire war over all of this, and that's not okay to repeat it.
Yeah, there was a war veteran from the United States who was talking about some of the recent book bannings that have been taking place, at different libraries across the United States in different red states. And basically, he's like, I would have never thought that, my own country would be treating its own people like the Taliban treats its own people in Afghanistan. I would have never expected that fascism would be something that we would have to fight here in this country.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's beyond crazy, really. It's just, and the same script is being used.
It is. It's the exact same terminology. It's exactly the same wording. There's really not much different,
And then we don't have to go that far. I mean, the indigenous or another group of individuals that not only were they stripped of their land and their native ways, they were forced into these rehabilitation camps, or what do they call them?
They call them reservations.
Yeah.
They would basically make them go to these areas that, things didn't grow in or that were scarce with any kind of water supply. And basically, they were sent there to die, literally, because this was like land that wasn't arable, wasn't, you couldn't grow things on it. They were just sent to their deaths, basically.
Pretty much. Their hairs were cut. I mean, you're talking about their spirit broken. They weren't allowed to keep any of their traditions. They were even encouraged to change their names. And you look at some of the other indigenous people, like the Mexicans, which also were all over the world. All over the world, this thing has been taking place, and they're forced to let go of their spirituality, of their culture, of their ways of living. Everything had to be done like the white man wanted them to do it, including being forced to believe in Jesus.
Yeah, the kids were taken from their parents. They were put into these schools. These they call them Indian schools, and basically they were military schools, for the lack of a better word. And there were so many things that happened to them there. They lost their culture. They lost the dignity of being who they were. They weren't able to speak their language.
It's
I
pretty.
mean,
Yeah.
our language is being taken away too. We're told that critical race theory, which is a fancy word for basically America needs to own up for its mistakes.
And the youth need to learn about what their actual quote unquote country, corporation has done to gain the success that they have, has done to be where they're at the top of the ladder.
When you have centuries of slavery that has built the backs of this country, the wealth that is able to be generationally transferred by families,
Mhm.
it doesn't occur out of the drop of a hat.
No.
It's actually years or lifetimes of people who sacrificed their lives, who worked for absolutely nothing, so that these companies, like say Dole or whoever it was that
Chiquita Banana.
yeah, all these different companies that came about in the past, and how they're still going today, and how they've been able to transfer their wealth.
Not to their
But-
kids.
But before, it was all generated off the backs of slaves.
Exactly. And now it continues, the slavehood continues, but we don't have the bars or the shackles around our ankles. We just, they dangle that carrot stick. Oh, you too could have this new car, but for a price and interest and so forth and so on. But anyway, I digress. We could also talk about the Crusades, which is another way that besides the colonizers, the Crusades just literally burnt books, destroyed, killed, burned the witches, everything in the name of their God, Yahweh, this all loving God that they claim is, and the whole storyline of Jesus coming to rid us of our sins, which is a whole bunch of malarkey. And I mean, we definitely have to do another show really talking about the truth behind Christianity and Jesus.
We were talking about something that we heard from Michael Knowles. He's on the Daily Wire,
Mm-hmm.
and he went and spoke at the University of Pittsburgh, I believe it was, had a debate with some liberal guy, and basically he let people know exactly where he stands. He let people know where a lot of people stand on the right and the conservatives with regards to transgender people, and the fact that he sees us all as being mentally ill, and that he feels that it would be, his compassion to round us all up and basically stick us all into a psych ward.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because we needed to be out of the public eye, because we are promoting something that's degenerative to society. And I mean, the way he speaks is no different than how this dictator from the 30s and 40s was speaking.
Yeah, no different at
or
all.
Or if you listen to Matt Walsh, even.
Oh my goodness, yeah. But karma is quite the phenomenon. Little Matt there had a little incident that I believe that had a lot of karmatic influence to it. But anyway, this God, this Yahweh that Christians believe in.
It all comes down to that, is that this God that many of you believe in.
Yeah. If you look at your Bible, which I'm pretty surprised that the majority of Christians don't even know what their own Bible says. They don't read the Bible. And I think it's important, if you're going to follow a belief system, you need to become very familiar with this belief system and really know what you're you're like waving the flag behind, you know, all these atrocities that this God Yahweh has actually done to his people. So on Deuteronomy 32:39-42, he says, I kill, I wound, I will make mine arrows drunk with blood. So into the blood thing, you know, and my sword shall devour flesh.
My sword shall
Devour
devour flesh.
flesh.
Does that sound like a loving God to you? Anything that wants to devour flesh?
No.
I mean, it's insane.
And then it's definitely no idle threat either, you know. And then you're looking at
The story of Noah's flood, about the fire that God rains down on Sodom and Gomorrah, and about the 12 plagues of Egypt. But did you know that in the Bible, God kills 185
no
times?
158.
158 times.
Yeah, the full list can be found in Steve Wells' book, Drunk with Blood. I mean, it's just like everything is about the sweet smell of burnt flesh, blood, killing, destroy, hell. I mean, it's like, I don't understand how anyone.
But then in Exodus 20, he says, thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
So, but then he says, I will send my fear before thee, God promises the marauding Israelites. Exodus 23:27, this day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven, who shall hear the report of thee, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee.
And that's Deuteronomy 2:25. And then the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them, reports a narrator in Genesis 35:5, even from the very beginning that he cast out his newly baby creation. I think it was like for a few hours, and they already, you know, got cast out.
I mean, how can a loving God partner with what he calls an angel of death to bring the death of the firstborn in every house, of whether that be a day-year-old or a 20-year-old? I mean, just has no like preference. No, doesn't matter.
And
he said he was going to kill the firstborn in each Egyptian family, whether the parents were poor, slaves, or royalty.
Yeah, he didn't care. And that's all in Exodus 7:12, for those of you who are following along with your Bible. Of all the Bible writers who sought to terrify pagans, because that was a big thing, pagans, you know, they're going against what the Christian God wants you to go, terrify pagans and other sinners, none exceeds the writer of Revelation, who fantasizes supernatural monsters, each with some special capacity for inflicting torture or death.
In one passage, a cloud of giant insects with human faces and the teeth of lions descends on those who lack a special mark from God.
You have to have a special mark from God, you know. So if you believe in that God and follow his teaching, I would certainly place you in the same box as all Christians, you know, because we have a lot of these individuals who watch our channel, and people that we have discussion with online constantly say, oh, but we're not like that.
Yeah, we're not like that at all. We just don't see how you can just like say one thing and then put us all in the same box, but you do the same, and you know, it's like this back and forth. Like, we're not like that. We just want people to love each other and get along, and it's like, well, no, that's not what your God says.
Right. You know.
He doesn't say that he wants to get along. He says, look, the sheep are on the left, on the right, and the goats are on the left, and the goats are going to be sent to hell, and the sheep are going to the right. I mean, it's like, it won't happen.
And it's crazy because they have done nothing other than make our lives miserable, those of us in the LGBTQ community. And those individuals that are raised Christians, that are gay, you know, they have become very double-minded and very confused and never really mature, because they're raised to not take responsibility. How can you, when you're being told, give it to Jesus, let Jesus take care of it, you know? And it's like you never really learn how to cope, how to heal, how to take life by the horn. You know, you you this very infant mentality, and it's just pretty sad.
You know, you and I, we were just like writing some simple thing. I posted a picture of us when we were on our cruise, just enjoying the time that we were, having a vacation. And then I actually posted that on the day of trans visibility. And this woman just comes out of the blue. I don't know her. She doesn't know us. And she's like, you know, you just need to what she was like, just she just goes off, and she's like talking about, you know it you don't need to push this on anybody and all that. And it was like, why are you coming to this wall? What gets under your skin so much that makes you want to talk to two people who obviously don't believe like you know
It's just crazy. I'm trying to see why this thing doesn't share it now. It's talking about the GOP, and the other one was about.
But she was like, I mean, she was just like insistent about her beliefs and everything. And then here's the irony, is that she feels that something about our conversation is funny. She thinks that, it's just hilarious that, that hell is hot and that we're going there, and, she's laughing, and it's like,
Is that this one? That
what? No,
no.
it was something else.
Okay.
But it was like, we don't agree. We don't believe that.
No.
We don't have any beliefs in that type of Christianity or in any Christianity at all. And then she's like, well, you can tell it to Jesus. I'm not arguing with demons. So she paints us as demons now. She doesn't know who we are. It's like, it's crazy.
So
these
isn't
people
that the
just, no,
same?
it's not the same.
No.
No, it's not the same. But I just don't understand it, because she's like, please send me more. All my friends will soon are getting the biggest laugh out of this. It's like, no, it's not that. They're like, all my friends are getting the biggest laugh out of this, and it's like, what is so funny about people just not agreeing with you?
Well, they don't have the capacity or the capability to actually, do that. This thing keeps changing on me. Here we go. So DeSantis, let's talk a little bit about what DeSantis is doing. I mean, we've got a lot of friends that live in Florida, our trans friends. We have a lot of gay friends that live in Florida. My own sister lives in Florida and is a counselor, and is just seeing it's just crazy what they're actually doing. Now, he originally had made this "Don't Say Gay" law till like the kindergarten till third grade, and now it is expanded
to 12,
to high school. And
12th grade,
and it's it's the original name was the Parental Rights in Education Law. The law that bans school from teaching students in kindergarten through third grade about sexual orientation or gender identity. And it's really sad, because some of these kids, and my sister works with some of these teens, they don't have a safe home that they could actually be who they are. And so, counselors and maybe teachers and individuals that they could talk to and feel that they're safe talking to someone that's not going to kick them out of their house, because many parents have kicked their children out of the house or abused them, beat them, all sorts of different things.
Now this is really hitting home, because these are people that people that your own family member is being affected by what's going on here.
Totally.
These things are now really affecting.
Totally, it's hitting home, and it's really. I mean, we've got trans friends that are worried. They're like thinking about moving. They don't know, what they're going to do. Some of our friends have kids, and it's like what we saw the other day, how literally children were taken from the parents, which was very alarming, and they wouldn't let the parents have their kids or go in with their kids.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so now it's been extended from 4th through 12th. So imagine you're in senior high school, you know, and you can't even get sexual orientation or talk about gender identity information. So they want everyone to be in a bubble. It's like, wait a minute, folks. Last I checked, the majority of us got raised by heterosexual parents.
Yeah.
So we weren't, you know, pushed to be this way. We weren't. On the contrary, we were constantly being told how bad we were, how imperfect we were, how wrong we walked and talked and presented. You know, constantly being our spirits broken. You know, and so now the schools have taken it upon themselves, since the parents don't want to, you know, be supportive of their children. The schools are trying to be that safe haven for kids, and now this horrible human being decides that he wants to take away that ability, and they do it on the protection for children.
That's nothing different than what the country of Hungary has been doing,
Mm-hmm.
and what the route that the country of Russia has been doing. In order to, you know, they come in under the guise of protecting children, but their actual purpose is to stamp out LGBT people from existing in their country.
Exactly.
And don't think that this isn't what's happening here in this country. There's a Republican Party. There are Christian conservatives out there who are like not just chopping at the bit to eliminate people who are LGBTQ.
Totally. And as equality, let me share this here. Okay. As they said, let's equality of Florida. I actually used to march with their
Equality
group,
Florida.
yeah, and holding the banners back in the day. Let's put it plainly: this is part of the governor's assault on freedom. You know, the freedom that they claim they're trying to give you all. You know, I find that the Republican Party is more a fascist party than anything else. Free states do not ban books. You know, or next will be book burning. Free states do not censor entire communities out of the classroom. And free states do not wage war on LGBTQ people to score cheap political points for a man's desperate to be POTUS. It's really, and I don't understand, you know, the battles with Disney, the battles with trying to, what is it now? Even older transsexuals, because you know it's not about the children. When the older transsexuals, there's another bill that passed. It was in the HB. It was here, but I don't know why it doesn't appear.
Well, here,
No,
in Florida,
in Florida, yeah, no,
and also
not here in where
in
we're at. I'm
Missouri.
talking about the computer. I'm trying to find.
Yeah, they're in Missouri as well. Like,
Yeah,
they've basically kind of like made it a felony for doctors to treat at all. And if they do, they could face 10 years in prison or something like that. It's just,
it's crazy. And you know, if you were getting treatment, you know, the doctor's not going to be able to continue to treat you.
I know in Missouri, it's like only if you've been going to treatment for 3 years or something, and that you have nothing related to autism or anything like that. It's just,
Right, and then you have the ban on drag queens, you know, and this is creating a massive concern with the pride parades that are going to be taking place now. I mean, they had one last week, I think it was, in Miami Beach. Children weren't allowed, the youth weren't allowed to march in it for the very first time. And there was one that got canceled in
Fort St. Lucie.
St. Lucie, and I'm sure many more will follow. And people are worried, that there's going to be violence. There's going to be all sorts of things because people are really acting extremely strange these days. But yeah, it's really alarming and concerning what we're seeing take place these days. You know, I don't know how far they plan to take this. It's just pretty sad. I mean, we're looking at women are not even allowed to do what women have been allowed to do for a long time now. It just got turned with the Supreme Court last year, and even the abortion pill is in question. Um, so they're taking everybody's freedom and autonomy
I mean,
away.
I just can't believe how much uh, this is affecting young kids who are gender questioning and stuff. I mean, if you're a young kid in Florida right now, this must be really difficult.
Really frightening.
You know,
Really, really frightening. I mean, I can't even imagine. Yet, they don't want to do anything about the guns. I mean, we have had more shootings this year than we've probably had in the past 5 years put together. And just Tennessee just lowered the permitless carry age on the day of the shooting in Nashville. That tells you something. These individuals just talk about guns, God, and country.
I was just looking at Reddit, and basically, there's this post that says, "Why does the world hate us so much?" This is a young person, and they say, "I know this has been a common topic here lately, but still, I've become very deeply depressed by all the constant negativity and hatred and abuse and harassment from Americans. I don't go out or leave my bed anymore. It's a constant stream of BS propaganda in the US as of recent years, more than ever before, and people feel so entitled to come up to you and let you know they think you're worthless for being trans. The political movement swarming against us makes it much harder too. I've had enough. I don't even want to exist anymore because nobody can just let trans people live a regular effing life." I mean,
I know.
these kids are just like, and we were talking about it too, is that young people today, it seems like they're not brought up with that backbone that, an older generation had. And a younger generation has been exposed to so much social media, so much Instagram, so much YouTube and TikTok and everything that.
Well, everything's fantasy. Everything's computer games and crossplay, and nothing's really concrete, real, and everything's given to them too quickly. They've never really had to work hard for anything. The majority, I don't want to say that every single teen or person is that way, but the majority. So they just don't have the coping mechanism. Their nervous system is damaged. They're very divergence, and or neurodiverse. So I can't imagine the literal breakdown that they're having. That all of a sudden, they're able to be themselves, and then the next minute they're worried about not being able to get their blockers, not being able to get their treatments, not even being able to even go to therapy. Because right now everything looks like they just want to like deprogram these kids, and what humanity don't understand, or maybe not the entire humanity, but those in the GOP, the gender crits, and the Christians specifically, don't understand that there is an evolution of our species taking place, and the children are speaking. They this whole black and white, male and female, get married, have kids, get a good job, go to college. They don't want that.
No.
They don't want that. They don't want the same thing that their parents wanted. They're evolving, they're growing. They see spirituality, not religion.
There's so much going on with the youth of today. I mean, I know we could get woo with people, but the reality is that this paradigm, the one that we're existing in, is really melting away as we speak. It's falling apart. The things are being exposed. I mean, if you watch The Matrix, you know that things aren't as they appear to be. Just like those uh, when you see like things maybe look closer in the mirror than they appear and stuff.
Exactly.
It's like we have these realities that people just up until just recently, maybe in like what after 2012 or something, that things really just started taking place, with the turn of events on the planet and everything.
Yeah, and it's we're going to go into deeper changes that most people are in for a rude awakening. They're not used to the new way of being. It's the things of the past are going to stay in the past. There's going to be changes throughout. We are literally um, changing frequencies as we speak. And people don't understand that your children don't want the regular life that you all had. They don't accept this black and white, male and female. That's why you see a lot of gender quote unquote confusion. It's not confusion. They're not confused. They just don't want to fit in the little box that you all putting them in.
Well, they're here for a world that's coming.
Yeah.
They're not here. They came here and they're here because it's like it's like it's like a shock to their system. Some of these kids.
Yeah, they're ushering a new world in, and the old world is still holding on. But like the dinosaurs got killed, eliminated, went extinct. That's the same thing that's going to happen for those individuals that don't change their frequency. And this is why we see a lot of people dying. We see a lot of people getting sick because their system just can't handle the change of the frequency that is unfolding right before our very eyes. And they can't handle the facts that people are not conforming to the ways of Yahweh, the ways of the biblical times. People are creating their own path. They are their own gods. We are gods ourselves. And I know people can't understand that. They call that narcissistic. They call it blasphemy. But the whole storyline that has been passed through generation after generation doesn't fit us anymore.
I mean, I think it was a perfect example when those kids marched into the state legislature in Tennessee and they said, please stop it with the guns. Let's help save our lives instead of like allowing these things to happen, with the Covenant School and all that thing that happened over there in Nashville. And it's like they're crying out because the world that adults are giving them right now just isn't the world that they want.
Exactly.
They don't want to live in this kind of world. They don't want to live in a world where if you back out of a driveway and you like look the wrong way, someone shoots at you.
I know. Or if you knock at the wrong door, you get shot.
Kid goes to this house and he goes to the wrong door, or the girl
to pick up his little brothers
drives up to a person's house and it's the wrong address. And
no, she went in the wrong driveway, so she went to back out, and the guy shot her. I mean, these are the people that are pushing God, country, and guns, and you're like dinosaurs. The earth vibration doesn't support your lower frequencies. So either you get with the program or you're going to be eliminated, just like all the people that have like left the planet. And there's been a lot of disease and death. And these are people that their frequency just couldn't handle the frequency that's coming.
It's like, people that want to say, make America great again. It's like, make this world great again, as in like make it like it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's never going to be
that age.
It's gone.
Came. It had its high point.
Yeah.
It like really flickered for a long time.
Yeah.
It was powerful. It did its thing. It consumed a lot. It's done.
It's done. It's over. Done. There's a new way
it's gasping for air at this point.
Gaia, or Mother Earth, is going to get our attention. She already has been getting our attention. All the yeah, tornadoes and excessive snow and excessive rain and all the things that are happening, she's going through birthing pains, and there's going to be a shift, a massive shift. And the best advice that I have for all of you is that start to meditate, start to let go of old paradigms, stop the whole worshiping propaganda that you've all been doing for the longest time, and start knowing who you are. Know thyself. Start eating the right kind of foods so that your temple could sustain the changes that are coming. All these diseases that you all get, they're self-induced because of your anger, your stress, your incapacitation, or the inability for you to deal with change, the inability for you to understand new things. You're so rigid. You talk about biology can't be changed. That's a lot of BS. We have constantly been evolving throughout history. The species, other species. Genetics are not fixed in stone. It all changes according to the environment. Study a little bit about quantum physics and understand that nothing is black and white. There's a lot of shades of gray.
Absolutely. There are so many variations, so many different colors that we don't even see, and that's the kind of world that we are being like ushered into, is a world where we can hear better, we can hear different frequencies, we could see new colors, we can experience things, we can have true empathy for each other, we can have true love for each other.
And new abilities beyond your imagination, because you see, this God Yahweh dumbed us down. He actually messed with your DNA and he messed with your abilities. But we were made for greater things. Even the Jesus that you all believe in tells you in his own words, what do you wonder in what I do? You too will do greater things than I. The kingdom of heaven is within you. What is that telling you? Jesus is not the Son of God. Jesus was another ascending master, the many that have come down here to wake us up. And Jesus learned many of these things in India. And he was really trying to provide us with skills and abilities for the time that we're living in right now. The age of Aquarius that we are getting into.
What I don't understand is how so many people these days, like I'm talking about those in the LGBT, that are saying, that they're against the trans community, and that, what the trans community is so awful and we should just split from them. They're just, they're just causing all these problems. And it's like, they don't realize that these Republicans and Christian conservatives, that they're not content just to take away the rights of trans people.
No.
I mean, we're like the gateway.
Yeah.
We're like the entry point for them to take away our rights, and then they'll take away your rights in a hot minute.
Yeah.
They'll just do it like.
And think about, why do you think all of this is taking place? If you notice the abilities that those of us in the LGBTQ community have, they call us the rainbow children for a reason. There are so many gifts that all of you have, but they have shamed you. They have done violence against you. They have tried to eradicate us throughout history. Why do you think that is? Because this Yahweh, this system, doesn't want you to actually engulf, be the human that you are meant to be. All of us in the LGBT community will have an important part to play in this new world that's coming.
Because we were talking about it earlier, how the systems of this world, and that would be including the church system, the religious system, the government system, it's all about disintegrating.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the left and the right, and what side are you on, and pick a team, and even our sports teams and stuff. It's like all about like disintegrating, and this is the age of integration. We're here to integrate to each other and to put ourselves back together so that we could get back to where we were.
Our original
as a
state.
species.
Yeah, our original state. There was no division. There was no violence. The violence and all that began when Yahweh entered the picture and sent us in a stage of confusion, in a state of sleep. And we've been asleep ever since then. And now we are awakening, and they don't like that. They want to put us right back to sleep. And they're going to try to do whatever it is that they are trying to do to destroy us, to get people angry at us, just like they did back in the age with the witches. You see, this is a spiritual war. It's a war for your light. They want to dim it.
Many of you in the LGBTQ, you have been here before. You have been persecuted for many lifetimes, and you're here now because this is the time that we win. We don't lose this time. We don't die this time. We don't see them gain their victory this time. This time, the whole house of cards is coming down.
Exactly. And they know it, so they're trying very desperately to break it all down and, stick us back in the hole. Speaking of athletes, you know how they have all this whole ordeal about trans women in sports.
Somehow that they will somehow present a way in which they will erase women. How is that?
I know. How can women be erased? I mean, are you that insecure, that insignificant, that a few trans athletes are going to just eliminate your sports and take all your medals and all your accolades, instead of saying, you know what, this is a time for me to like really challenge myself and possibly even get better? As we know in history, when somebody breaks a record, then all of a sudden other people start breaking that record because we're like a collective, we're like a hive mind. And when somebody thinks about something and then all of a sudden somebody all across the world thinks about the same thing that you thought about, because we're connected. There's a deep connection that we all have, yet they don't want you to know this. But anyway, wanted to point out, this is very interesting. I didn't even know that. You found this. Ray Libman competed as a trans athlete over 20 years ago, and you didn't even know it. He was was he an ice skater? Figure skater. At the 2014 Gay Games in Cleveland, where he won a silver medal. He was an FTM.
Right.
Go figure. When they say that
he took it. Oh no.
No.
He took a medal?
He took a medal
away from a biological man.
Oh, I know. Now we're gonna have
Where's the uproar?
Where's the uproar with that, right? So Ray Libman dared to ask the question no one had ever asked before. So when the trans athlete called U.S. figure skating in 2001 to inquire what their transgender policy was, the woman on the line was dumbstruck.
It was before the International Olympic Committee had offered any guidance. The Stockholm Consensus, which created one of the first paths to participation for trans athletes, wouldn't be released until 2003.
Libman was a trans man, and he wanted to compete in the male category. No one had ever asked the question. At this point, I had started transitioning, Libman told Outsports, and essentially, when I called the headquarters, the woman said they never dealt with it, and the governing council was meeting in a couple of weeks.
When they got back to him, U.S. figure skating said that because the IOC didn't have a policy, he would be ineligible to compete in the male category in any competitions, even in the United States. Libman let the woman at U.S. figure skating know His next outreach would be to the ACLU.
Let me call you back, she said. When U.S. figure skating reached out a second time, they told him he was ineligible to compete in international figure skating qualifying events. However, he could compete in local non-qualifying competition.
Littman went full speed ahead. He entered local competitions, but now he was doing so in the male category, and actually many of the men in the sport appreciated it.
So there we go. At local level figure skating is a lot of women and very few men. Littman said his male competitors were legally thrilled to see him on the ice. They were cool because the guys were happy to have someone compete against. I was surprised. It was nice.
At the same time, Littman was competing internationally in the theater on ice competition, which is not an Olympic sanctioned event.
Theater on ice is, according to U.S. figure skating, a form of competitive figure skating that combines the grace of figure skating with the excitement of theater and dance.
While he wasn't sure he could compete in the non-gender team event, he figured he'd barrel through anyway. He'd apologize if someone took issue. Well, it worked out.
All the while, Littman said people in the figure skating community were well aware of who he was. He had competed in the girls' competition at a younger age. Even then, he says he was obviously LGBTQ.
Certainly, growing up in figure skating as a visibly gender non-conforming person, people knew who I was. I hadn't changed my name at that point, so you could go figure out who I was pretty easily.
The only people who cared while he was competing, Littman said, were some coaches. He seemed to have a bright future in the female category, and they wondered why he'd leave that behind to compete in the male category with less of a chance of winning medals.
Yet the worst responses he got was when he stopped skating competitively and began coaching. The world of figure skating is relatively small, insular, and coaches are fighting for students, Littman said. That's when some coaches outed him in hopes of driving some students away from him and to them.
How rude. So sadly, their transphobic plan worked. I had one parent. I've been working with her daughter for 8 or 9 months, and her daughter was improving. The other coaches outed me, and the parent told me I should never be working with children, and how dare I work with her daughter without telling her. These people, the God-loving folks, they are like the worst of the worst.
Mind you, there was no competitive issue here. This was Littman simply teaching the young girl how to skate better. Brutal.
Skating is actually a conservative sport, Littman said. My livelihood depended on it, and it didn't want to rock the boat. That is why you likely have never heard his story before. Littman felt for years that despite people in the figure skating world rumbling about his gender, he needed to keep his trans identity a secret.
He's now getting his MA in Applied Sport and Performance Psychology at Holy Names University, a Roman Catholic school, where Littman says he's had an absolutely positive experience. The nuns know me. They know I'm trans. I worked in the athletes department, and I'm out as trans there. Everyone has been really supportive. It's been wonderful.
As he finishes his education at another school, Holy Names plan to close this year. He'll be doing so while advocating for trans rights and as an example of the power of visibility himself. There you go. How rude and mean of people, to do what they do. I mean, it's crazy, But there you have it, and I'm sure, like him, there's been other trans athletes that have competed unnoticed, but
yeah, it's like they think that every single trans kid out there who goes and has puberty blockers and then goes through their transition in a way that doesn't change their secondary sex characteristics, and then they flow into life in a very normal, a very just a normal way, that they're somehow impaired, But there's so many that transition that you don't even hear about. You don't even know about, because they don't publicize it. They think that it's the worst thing.
Of course.
To publicize something.
Why would you? And especially in this climate nowadays. But yeah, there's a lot of younger trans kids who are on blockers, who had the hormones and had procedures and are now living happily productive lives as the men and women they portray to be.
Yeah.
Listen, we know we're not biologically male or female, or the sex that we transition to. We know our biologies, but we don't live in that type of world. We live in the world that we created as creator gods that we are. People have problems with us because they don't understand us. They fear us. They're pushing their godly beliefs on us, believing that we have to think the way they do, be the way they do, and believe the way they do. And everyone's entitled to their life. Why must you be a stumbling block to someone else's life? It's beyond me. Listen, this stuff has been going on forever. Way, 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 even past what we're going to share with you here. These individuals that you see right here, these are all trans, coloring the past. Ellie Ehrlich, actually.
She's actually colorized these black and white
Yes,
photos.
they were once upon a time. This right here is 1921. 4 trans activists stand outside in Hirschfeld. Let's see here. Hirschfeld Institute for Sexual Science, 12 years before Nazis stormed the facility and burned its books.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad. And here we have.
Yep, there we have trans men
Mhm.
from like what year? It's like
The 4th and 7th and 6th patients in 1910. 1910.
Wow.
Trans men. People just, I swear, it's just straw man arguments. They just go with conspiracies. They lie,
And, what's really sad though as well is the fact that there are these people in the LGBT who are actually like saying that transsexuals weren't a part of what happened in the past with the gay community. I mean, with the gay and lesbian community, it's like the trans community's been there.
Right. This Weimar Germany was among the most supportive societies for trans people in the history of Europe. With newly available medical care, many flocked to Berlin to obtain treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, this is back in 1910.
Yes.
And it's and then of course, Stonewall, which is a great history moment. We've seen pictures here, and they want to separate the T from the LGBT community. Well, the T, even though wasn't a letter in the actual alphabet soup, there were many transsexual females who didn't know that was their label, that actually stood up and supported and fought hand in hand.
Yeah, and this one specifically talks about a drag king, a trans man, right? A rampant misconception about the Stonewall rioters figures them as white, gay, cis men, along with anti-black sentiment. This misunderstanding partially stems from black and white photography. While it was certainly mostly gay cis men who patronized Stonewall, it was undisputably instigated by the arrest of a black drag king, Storm de Lavari, and fought by a multiracial, multi-gender group.
It's just bizarre. Japan had short-lived heyday of transgender self-determination in the mid-century. Multiple clinics offered gender-affirming surgeries from around 1950 to 1965 before the nation banned them. Trans people hung out in the streets of Tokyo, like in these Katsumi Watanabe photos. And, this, it's like what they're trying to do now. They're trying to ban, they're trying to eliminate. Every time we raise our head above water, they want to like drown us back down again.
It seems like in Japan, though, and Korea, that this is still something that really captures the interest of the people in that country, because with all the anime that's going on, the cosplay and stuff, and all that is from those countries, and they focus a lot on gender, and you see the guys that are on the the K-pop or whatever it is, that band, that's like Korean boy band,
Mhm.
and they look very feminine.
Very androgynous,
now.
yeah. So then in 1960, Japan was by no means measure a haven for trans people. However, it wasn't like the US either. Trans folks congregated in bars with relaxed cross-dressing laws compared to other countries. These newly colorized photos show the everyday lives of trans women in middle century or mid-century Tokyo. So you got, it's like,
Well, that's Jackie Shane, a
uh,
black trans Tennessean singer from the 50s to 2000s. She came out as transgender at 13 to support a family in the Jim Crow South. Already dealing with that.
yeah.
Jackie should have been a superstar, but the world wasn't ready for her legendary voice.
Yeah, and it says here, think trans people are too mean about misgendering these days? From 1913 on, Zapatista, Colonel Emilio Robles Avila, from 1889 to 1984, threatened to shoot anyone they called him a woman with his pistol. He lived openly as a man for 71 years and was supported by his family, peers, government. So come on now, folks.
People living regular, normal, everyday lives.
Yeah, yeah. It's so let's see here, that one I guess.
Monaco was an influential multiracial dyke/trans bar in 1930s Paris. Monacos were a bit like wearing a pride flag among the queer people, assigned female at the time. Although the Nazis shut down the bar during the war, many patrons stayed in touch for years after. Famed Hungarian French nightlife artist Crusades captured many photos of the club now housed at the Cleveland Museum of Art.
So this is like really, really like history, Stormy de la Verre, 1920 to 2014, was a black drag king, bodyguard, and Stonewall veteran. After his arrest sparked the Stonewall riots, he became a bouncer for multiple dyke bars. He became known as the guardian of lesbians in the village, even though lesbians like trans guys back then, unlike now, and patrolled streets to stop gay bashing. He used multiple pronouns, eventually switching to he, him in his later life. We got here 1960.
San Francisco brought many trans women to California. These rare photos were digitized and colorized from James Patrick Driscoll's 1968 San Francisco State University thesis. Unfortunately, none of the trans women were named in the photos.
Yeah, and so we got more. Here's Jorgen Jurgensen receiving the Scandinavian Society Women of the Year Award in 1953, following her highly public transition. I mean, it's like we've gone backwards. It's really, really sad. So Charlotte Francis, was the second U.S. trans woman to obtain gender-affirming surgery in Denmark after Christine.
She was 28
Yeah.
back in 1953. At first, Charlotte McLeod's father didn't support her medical transition. However, after her surgery, he explained, "Now that it's over, I'm ready to accept Charlotte as my daughter. It's a little hard to get used to after all these years, but I will. You can bet on me."
I mean, it's like, what's going on with people nowadays? Unlike present newspapers, nearly all reporting on Charlotte was positive and celebratory. In 1954 issue of the Nashville Banner noted her beauty and that all her friends, neighbors, and loved ones accepted her. On the right, you clearly see the love and support up here, I guess, her family, her father, eyes after she returned from surgery. He adored his daughter and celebrated her for who she was. Look at that right there. That's I hope people start to really realize how much more of this do we have. Well, these are all pictures, and I'll put the link on the description so you guys could, check it out yourself. But we've been around. We've been around for a very long time. We're gonna be around for forever. History repeats itself, but we're not going anywhere. Nowhere. Not at all. But yeah, So we're gonna go ahead and call it quits. Tomorrow's a work day. We just decided that we wanted to chime in and just share some of that information with you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss one of our podcasts, live podcasts. Um, you know, eventually we'd like to maybe start interviewing people again. We'll play that by ear. And we also have a call-in number if anyone ever wants to call in, share your views, or comment, a question. We'll probably have another show probably Monday again, a day off. So anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think it's just important to know for people to understand that trans people have been around. It's not like a new thing. It's not like, it's like people would say, yeah, everything was great until this trans thing started. And it's like, wait a minute. Just because, okay, transgender wasn't a thing back in like 1975 or something, doesn't mean that trans people didn't exist. Just because we didn't have a specific part of the LGB that we were in. We were in the LGB, we were one of those. We were in that group.
Exactly.
But,
we just didn't have a name.
No, we just didn't have a name. It's like, they would have called people, I mean, in Mexico or in Latin America, they look at everybody who's trans as just being gay.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been around, and it's not some cult, and it's not anything of that nature. That's all conspiracy. No one's coming after your children.
No one's coming after your womanhood.
No one's coming to take all your medals away from you. We just want to live. We want to be educational for those that have needed support, because many of us, we grew up without any support from our parents, from anyone, because we were an outcast. And I believe that it's all done in good intentions. This whole witch hunt that you all are doing is wrong on all accounts. All like the Megyn Kellys and the Matt Walsh and the little man who has that voice with his name, Ben Shapiro, all you people, and Michael Knowles, they're acting like fascists. They're just following a GOP plan to try to gain political power, and they know the buttons to push. But we're not going anywhere, folks. Many of us have lived through a lot of this stuff, and it doesn't faze us. I mean, it's sad, but we've gone through this before. So
I think what would be really interesting would be to talk about the current situation with what is causing this younger generation to do what it's doing. What is actually causing this generation, the Gen Z generation, to be so depressed and to be so questioning of their gender, or to, what is it? Why is our world different compared to what it used to be?
Well, I think a lot of it is the endocrine disrupting chemicals.
Well, yeah, but we can talk about that. We can also talk about just how, where are the parents?
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about, ask that question, where are the parents? I mean, just because you're a helicopter parent doesn't mean that you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. Actually, you're doing the wrong thing, because you're disabling your children. Back in the day, 12 years old was considered pretty much an adult, compared to now. Now they want to keep them in the nest forever and cuddle them and not let them grow up,
or let them go outside,
or even let them go outside.
They kids don't get a license.
They don't even drive.
They don't even drive.
Yeah, it's just, you want to blame somebody, you got to blame the parents for not equipping their kids with the ability to understand emotions
and
to cope and how to process things and all that jazz. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you probably Monday. So until then, be well, take care. We love you. But remember to always love yourselves too, and each other. Stay safe. We're living in a very scary world. So